The state now is starting a new reading exam for our third grade students. And if the 8 and 9-year-olds don't pass this I Read 3 exam that starts next Monday, they won't move on to fourth grade reading. Critics say perhaps that's a bit dramatic, but the governor has gone on the record saying it's cruel to pass students on when they're lost. We are joined today by State Superintendent Tony Bennett. Thanks for joining us
today.
Great to be here. And what's the thinking here about this test? Why? Let's just start with why put it in place, and then also, what about the penalties?
Well, Anne-Marie, let's first take a look at our current condition, and that is the issue that people talk about it being dramatic. Well, what, in my opinion, is more dramatic is when we send children through our educational system. And we currently have this practice where students can't master the most important yet fundamental skill necessary for academic success, which is literacy, and we send them on and never catch them up. So a great example, when we did the turnaround school meetings in the 19 different communities, it was startling to hear teachers at high school say, do you know the problem we have? We have high school children who can't read a science textbook or a U.S. history textbook. So when people talk about this being dramatic, what's dramatic is passing children through a system that we never catch up and setting them up for failure.
Well, and can you clarify when we talk about, moving on to fourth grade? Is it possible to move on to fourth grade but be in third grade reading? And does it make sense? I mean, you made the point earlier that if you're taking a math class but you can't read the story problem, then you're in fourth grade math but you're in third grade reading. What really is the thinking here? Should you stay in third grade, or should you move on and then have some of your classes be third grade classes?
Well, first, in Indiana and across the country, differentiated instruction is becoming the commonplace practice. So I think one of the things we know is that there is differentiation going on in Indiana schools, and we are making education more individualized. But let's talk about the state's position. The state's position is simply that if a student can't prove mastery of third grade reading, they are going to be tested on the I-STEP in third grade, and they are going to have to retake I Read 3. So I think, Secretary Duncan always says we have to stop lying to our children. And I think the practice of social promotion is just that. We're telling parents and children, your child is ready for fourth grade, and believe me, these one-offs are less common than many of our critics would want you to believe. It's really not the right thing to do. So again, differentiation does occur. But in the Department of Education, we code those children as third graders, we test them as third graders until they pass that I Read 3 test, unless they have good cause exemptions or they meet the criteria of the law.
So this test is on Monday. It's not a surprise. Teachers have known about it. Have there been these temperature checks going on? Has there been cramming? Is there anything that a parent could do today to get their student better ready for that test come Monday?
Well, I'm very proud to say, Anne-Marie, first of all, Indiana took a much different approach than other anti-social promotion states. And that is the fact that we provide snapshots in first and second grade, even in kindergarten, of where children should be so that this is no surprise. The key to this should be third grade teachers making sure that second grade teachers, making sure that first grade teachers, and now with the full day kindergarten, literally almost universally implemented, we should be able to say that let's not look at third grade as a swinging door that just closes on a child. Let's make sure that we know the skills the child has in literacy as they go through each grade in the continuum, so that we don't send children to third grade who aren't prepared.
And in conclusion here, when we're talking about this test and you're saying that there are many kids that are not reading at the level they should be, what do you predict? What volume of students do you think will be impacted that won't make it, that may need to go to summer remediation?
Good question. We ran some modeling, Anne-Marie. We reported at the State Board a few months ago that our first run was about 15%. After you look at the good cause exemptions, which are written into the law, and after you look at retests and remediation, that drops to somewhere between 9 and 11%. So we're not talking about this huge number.
But 9 and 11% is how many kids?
Roughly, let's say Indiana has 100,000 kids per cohort. So we're talking, what, 10, 11,000 kids statewide out of 292 school corporations across our state. So, we're not talking about huge numbers. But what we are talking about are the future of our children and their ability to succeed and really have that most necessary skill to be successful in their future academics.
Yeah, certainly is one of the basics of reading, writing, and arithmetic.